Hi, I'm Dr. Carol Francis. This is our last class in navigating emotions, but boy, there's so much more. As with all of these different courses, these provide you as much information as we can, trying not to overload you too much, but yes, giving you quite a bit so that you can follow up on each and every aspect of this. Of course, I really want you to know that individual therapy and the work that I do with people one-on-one is very powerful because I can trace exactly where you're at and intervene at different spots that are most helpful to you, and we work together as a team to be able to make things work optimally. So this way of doing an online course, you're kind of left on your own, but there's some really advantages of that. And I want to say congratulations, because you've decided that on your own you're going to charge forth. Bravo. Good for you. Congratulations. And I'm so glad you took this tool, because that's exactly why my team, are creating this tool, is for you to be able to take tools and use it and charge forth to the best of your ability. So that it may not be a substitute for therapy or group work or a whole assortment of other paths, because there's so many paths available to you, but it does intervene for you. And I'm happy that you're here. And that's exactly what we're talking about in class 6, is happy. Now, there are books out that are really worth you considering, which is like You Make Your Own Happiness, We Create Our Own Happiness, and Self-Fulfilled Prophecy of Happiness is Definitely a Reality. And for individuals who are feeling depressed and sad or angry or lost or void of love, it's like, what are you talking about? Happiness isn't something I can create. Don't irritate me. Don't disrespect how deep my trauma and abuse has taken me. You have no clue what I've gone through. How dare you suggest that I can just pick myself up by my bootstraps and get myself into happiness? And I applaud you for being irritated about that, because it's a simplistic approach to say, oh, here, do this, now you'll be happy. Now, everybody may want you to recover quickly so they can share happiness with you. Remember, in relationships, it's about we want connection. We want to enjoy ourselves with you, and we want you to enjoy yourself with me. That's what relationships are built on. And to be able to enjoy requires an ability to feel happiness. Happiness and joy and inner peace and love and laughter and gratitude and just presence. All that I'm going to cluster under this happiness framework. I actually would rather call it joy or reverie or the elevation of the soul, you see, but that's not the vernacular. So of our particular society, happiness is the vernacular. It's the word that we use to capture some really positive, elevated sorts of things. We talk about in the book, Paths to Recovery After Abuse and Trauma, finding your purpose and meaning out of horrible situation. Find the lessons out of the horrible situations you have escaped. And there's one way in which finding your meaning and purpose out of that situation doesn't make it right and doesn't okay it, but it empowers you to feel like there's something of value there. And that something of value there, once you start plucking it out, begins to stir that sense of happiness, that sense of joy, that sense of peacefulness, that sense of that sense of purpose, that finding of yourself, and that in that positive, good space can come from there. The second thing is when you find that you're actually able to assist others or interact with others in a valuable sort of way, you begin to feel your own sense of value. So you may be getting value from what you give others or what you give yourself, but that value is a type of happiness, contentment, serenity. And that rescuing that sense of value that you find as a survivor is very important. I think Michelle Knight is one of the individuals that very keenly characterizes this for me. That she went through 12 years of torture, rape, several times a day, death, cruelty. I mean, her book, Finding Me, is horrific and enlightening at the same time. I thank her so much for sharing her story. And the other two women that shared that same experience for a shorter length of time have also written books as well. These are individuals that understand the depths, the absolute depths of abuse and trauma. And yet, in their recovery process, they find purposefulness. And in that, they also find a sense of contentment or happiness at least some of the time, a modicum of the time, maybe the majority of time. One of the things that Michelle Knight also says in her books is that she was able to appreciate the good things of her current life so much more because she lived without them for so many years. She was also able to appreciate what really mattered as opposed to all this riffraff of things that we're supposed to value, but do they really have value? So she was able to find the real values in life. She was able to find the real gratitudes in life. She was able to find her purpose and meaning that she's helping so many victims who have been kidnapped and maintained for all sorts of molestations and horrible situations. Another individual wrote Millstone, James Dunlap, and I will put his interview under this as well. His son and many of the sons at the same time were molested by priests in the particular church that they were going to at the time, and they could not get the Catholic Church to respond. Pope John III, I believe it was, did not respond, although they were informed. Well, hopefully Pope Francis will respond, as I've discussed about in other presentations, but here's the thing, is that James Dunlap, as the father, really went into a state of depression and sadness and guilt and forlornment and self-blame, and also into rage that was full of love, and rage that was full of wanting retribution and justice because of love, and also deep love for his son and the other sons that went through that horrible situation. So he had his own recovery, even though the trauma was not his directly. I mean, the trauma is that his son went through it and that he found out someone he trusted completely destroyed and betrayed his entire family, community, faith, violated his son and other boys. And so he discusses on that interview what he does to find meaning and purposefulness so that he can have a modicum of getting up and having the energy to move forward. And he is grateful for himself to be able to charge forth in that direction. And that is a form of happiness. Now, we're also going to talk about, when we go to the course on imagination and discernment and the functions of your mind and self-hypnosis and things of that sort, where you realize that what you program into your mind is going to most likely be what you sow. What you seed is what you sow. What you bury in the dirt is what's going to sprout if you water it and give it the right sun and shade. And that's true with happiness. And that's true with depression and fear and love and anger as well. So you want to realize that, yes, what you put into your mind is going to actually impact your emotions. And it's going to impact your feelings. Now, happiness, like all the other feelings, they float and they react and they're all over the place. Happiness doesn't know that, when they're watching a comedian and they're laughing, the happiness feelings don't realize that that's a comedian, versus when you're petting your animal and throwing a ball and it feels happy to you, or when you hear the giggle of a baby, or when you see some beautiful sunset or a wonderful butterfly or dragonfly that just passes by and it just is very moving inside of you. It is very elevating inside of you. But all those emotions are fleeting in the moment of gratitude, enjoyment, pleasure, and they're moments. And you take those moments to the degree that you can attach a lot of gratitude and enjoyment to them, and attach your memory to them, and to think about them over and over again, to activate them in your body over and over again, is to the degree you're actually creating happiness. And so this ability to create happiness by the way of the mind and discernment and hypnosis and self-hypnosis and suggestibility and bringing into the whole of who you are is very powerful. And we'll do that in the meditation associated to happiness. But we're also going to do it in terms of that course on the mind and imagination. So you want to be able to really say, what am I fueling myself with? Am I thinking about something that's happy? No, I'm not. Okay, maybe it's important that you don't. Happiness is not the end all. However, maybe say, I'm going to fuel it with something that makes me happy. A verse, a poem, a self-affirmation, a memory, an experience. I'm talking about anchoring experiences and emotions in your hand, so that you're able to actually say, I want some happiness right now, so I'm going to summons happiness up. Summons it up. Here, I want the spirit of happiness right now. I'm going to summons it up by putting this concoction together, and I'm going to ingest it. Another aspect of that is, of course, adding exercise, a good quality sleep, and good quality eating into your life as well. You're ingesting those things in your wonderful body so your body can support the emotions of happiness and serenity and peacefulness and calmness and pleasantness, well-being. So this well-being you can ingest in terms of your thoughts as well. Now, there are times when you have to think, or you will think, or you'll just be kind of kidnapped by the moment about what your abuse and your trauma led you to. I get it. You don't need to sit there and say, oh, that's awful, look, I've been kidnapped. There are ways of going in and out of that experience and even using those experiences to your benefits. And each of these courses talks about ways of doing it. So I'm not saying to that aspect of your reality, because that's your reality. However, you must also realize that while that's your reality, there's all these other things inside of you that want to be heard too. I want to be here. I want to feel this. I want to feel that too. I know we've been abused and trauma, but there's also this and there's also that. I want to be able to feel all of these different things in me. And it's perfectly okay for you to create programs and program them into you that are all about feeling serenity, happiness, calmness, peacefulness, joy, reverence, samadhi. I mean, just like for you to feel this elevation, wow, this sense of unity of soul and spirit, this at one-ment that you might also collectively feel. The individual, Cindy Warren, talks about some of these emotions on that interview that's attached to this particular course on navigating emotions. And there'll be other individuals that I have also associated to navigating emotions that you'll be able to listen to how they've resurrected themselves out of a horrible situation and been able to embrace this happiness. One individual had an afterlife experience or a near-death experience. She, in her interview, talks about how everything she did in life was self-harm, self-hate. She was never enough. She was not perfect enough. She wasn't beautiful enough. She wasn't thin enough. She wasn't the best wife. She wasn't the best girlfriend. She wasn't this one. She was always bad, just so bad. And she would actually create a space inside of herself that was tormenting and torturing. So there it is. And she just was following the path of self-destruction. Then, in the process of this, she died. And she died for actually a sustainable period of time. And while she was in her near-death experience, she had so many elevating moments, so many aha experiences, so many individuals and information that she was given and downloaded that when she came back, but she couldn't talk or communicate well, she was filled with this sense of reverie and connection and insight and value and peacefulness that she had never had before in her life. Now, to think that Erica had to go through actually dying to be able to tap into that part of her, that's kind of sad, but I'm so glad she's here to tell the story. And that interview is also attached to this particular section, Navigating Your Emotions. So, my wish for you is this. Know that happiness is something you can create. Know that. Whether you know how to create it is something else, and I will be teaching you that. But just know that happiness, joy, contentment, peace, well-being can be created, even if you have been poisoned by the horrors of abuse and trauma. But if you know that it can be created, you can go after it and find the paths that lead in that direction. If you don't know that, you'll never even get up to try to find the right way to hike, and you won't believe a word that I'm saying. So if you just know it, now we can go forward with it in all of our other courses and really consider how to make our life ours and not kidnapped by the abuser or the traumatic situation that befell us in some very unfortunate and awful sorts of ways. And so I look forward to seeing you in the next course. We're going to talk about the body in the next course. So that will be part of recapturing your happiness as well. Okay, do all the exercises, read the book, listen to the wonderful experiences that are shared with you in those recordings. And I will see you next time. Take care of yourself. Bye.